Hello, and welcome to Feedback on the week of January 25th. A rather significant week if you think about it. The PS3, the 360, and the Wii all have an M-rated game coming out this week. See, yeah, look at that.
Wait,
The more you know.
Which M-rated game on PS3?
Wouldn't Mag be? Is it Mag? Oh, it is teen.
It's teen.
Wah,
All right. Adult skewing games are coming out on all three systems.
The language
Untrue.
online will
Fail.
undoubtedly be M-rated.
So let's introduce
there you
our fine panel. Once again, we have Patrick Klepek, Abby Heppy, and Sterling McGarvey, fresh from a No More Heroes Desperate Struggle review. Waggle or non-waggle has, obviously been part of your life for the past week. Obviously, there were some other releases this week. Mag, Mass Effect 2. We're actually going to hold off on our heavy discussion of Mass Effect 2 so that all of our fine panelists can have the numerous hours required.
Only one person has played 57 hours of Mass Effect 2.
Obviously, if you are interested in what are my feelings on the game, where there's both a soapbox and my review, and some discussions with Brian Leahy about my tips for getting the most out of the game for your enjoyment, are all up online. But in terms of a feedback discussion, we are going to table that one until next week. Also, would like to just remind our viewers, while this might be going up on a certain day, it does take some time to go through the encoding and the editing and everything. And so we are actually here on Tuesday in anticipation of a very major announcement regarding the tablet from Apple happening on Wednesday. We are not going to pretend like it has happened and then look like jackasses if we're wrong. So
there's a certain appeal to that.
yeah, there is something like that. But there will be, if you also check on the website, we will have some discussions right following the announcement of the iTablet, which was what we expect to be happening. So there, all that's out of the way. News.
Yeah, there some updates on Sony's motion controller, which now is slowly we're learning that may be called the Arc.
That kind of makes sense. I mean,
Kind of like the original Boomerang controller. Maybe it's a throwback.
Oh, yeah.
No, probably not.
No.
Yeah, so it's been pushed to the fall. It was supposed to come out in the spring. We all, I think, pretty much realized very quickly that thing was not coming out in the spring. So now it's coming out.
We haven't seen it like anywhere.
Anything. It's not coming out to the fall, and it sounds like we're setting ourselves up for like a really major motion E3 battle. Considering that it sounds like both Project Natal and Arc will get unveiled at E3.
Yes, I think we can call it a tale of three waggles if we want to start, creating whatever the narrative thread is going to be during that week of E3.
We can just demo all mini games on our stage.
I love
That's
that idea.
E3.
There
all
we
mini
go.
games.
Look,
That's how you heard
it's
it here
Bejeweled with no
first.
controller. Oh, we're having, and you know how much fun that would be for us to do that, but probably not for anybody else watching.
But it should be like that whole scenario is very curious too, considering that I think how E3 played out last year, where Microsoft came out with I think a little bit more than we were expecting with Natal, like very complete demos, some impressive technology. The demos, on its face, I think a lot of people were like, this Natal thing is pretty cool. Now show me what it can actually do.
And the voice recognition. I think that was the one thing that did take all of us by surprise.
And then Sony comes out and sort of, look what we got, guys. We got this little project kicking around in the back. And
if they had flip-flopped those two press conferences, I think it would have been a better story. Yeah.
And that sort of happened to Sony before with the Wii, where Nintendo shows what they're doing with the Wii, and then all of a sudden, look at what our 6-axis can do. And I wonder if they're going to learn from those lessons, given that I'm not sure, third time can't be the charm. Maybe it's the charm on that one. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it's really going to come down to what games it supports. The direction they seem to be moving with it is that this is less designed for mini games than to be a real serious kind of Wiimote that really has a good implementation in games that you and I already enjoy playing. Then they'll be fashioned around that. I think if this
I'm just saying that I guarantee you the first games we're going to see for that are mini games. What are
Or-
you?
that-
we
or-
got
that
this
or
bow
Resident
and
Evil
arrow,
5.
or Resident Evil 5. I mean, I guess my frustration is that while I think many people didn't agree with me in my assessment of the game back then, that game has not sort of resonated in the popular gaming consciousness the way Resident Evil 4 did. And so adding it to that game, I don't know if people are really dying to revisit that in any fashion.
yeah.
It seems like that what Sony's trying to do is position themselves as Wii HD. I mean, we've gone over that before, but it seems like they're just jumping out of the gate with their sort of motion plus. There's no adding on a peripheral. They've got the one-to-one motion, apparently. None of us have gotten hands-on with it yet because they're being totally secretive, but that seems to be exactly what they're gunning for with it.
Now, here's the one thing I would throw out, that one of the games we completely expect to be coming out at the end of this year is Ueda San's The Last Guardian. Given his propensity for very unique and innovative games, I'm not saying I want it to involve motion control, but I think there is an outside chance that game could somehow be incorporating it. It has been in development for a long time, and given where he is in Sony Japan, I could see that he might be incorporated during the development of the technology as he's developing the game.
It's sort of, yeah, I mean, it kind of remains to be seen what Sony's approach is, if they're going to be like Microsoft, where it seems like with Microsoft going forward, all of their games will have some sort of Natal integration, whether it's through the navigation menus or something. I expect after Natal launches, Microsoft does not release a game that does not have Natal touching it in some capacity.
I think in the menus that might make sense. Although if I already have the controller in my hands,
Yeah, then what's the point of flipping through menus?
Hopefully what we're not going to have is what we saw with the 6-axis, which was this kind of imposed incorporation in every game of some kind of substantive use of the motion control.
Well, and that's why I think Microsoft's in a better position, because with the voice recognition, like there are ways they can have you using it that aren't like so
That's true.
forced. In order for 6-axis to work, you have to force it. In order for this new motion that Sony's proposing, you have to force it. Like there's no situation where like you're just going to have the wand in your hand. If you can talk to the game, maybe you'll mess around with it.
I honestly think that might. I think the voice recognition might be a much larger component of this than we're actually thinking, because it's cool to think that you can do Minority Report, but there's very simple ways of integrating into a game motion. I mean, voice recognition.
That's true. I mean, look what Enwar was doing, last year.
Exactly. I mean, it's A, for ease of play to navigate a menu, or think squad controls.
Yeah,
I mean,
Squad
really,
controls, or just like even just like going through the interface. Like if I can just say party chat or something. Like if I can just bring up something without having, if I just hold right button party chat. Like if it, I mean, I think that kind of stuff, especially
would be
considering that
convenient,
they've upgraded the interface so many times. I'm not sure how much more fast they can get it. Like maybe like the voice controls are a way of sort of letting you do shortcuts.
Yeah.
I was thinking Ghost Recon 3.
I'd be a fan for
That would be
Could be.
really cool.
That would be very cool.
See, what I'm thinking that's also interesting is the PlayStation Eye has a microphone built in. It's just a matter of the fact that they haven't taken advantage of it in a way that Project Natal could possibly capitalize on.
Also,
it seems
it's two accessories.
Yeah.
Like that's
Well, I don't believe there's a camera proper in Natal. So I think that, if you actually want to sort of have a recorded image, you're still going to have to use the secondary accessory.
No.
of,
I mean, that's how it's going to have the image recognition.
It's not just a scan of your body?
It's everything. Yeah, it's all in one.
That is going to be useful. And it's an easy way just to kind of, once again, Trojan horse it, all the way into
If that's the way they use it. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, the announcement of the ARC had, I think, a tepid reaction from some of our readers out there. I mean, it is, just what it's going to be called, or what we think it's going to be called. McFly, nice one, 707, said, a name's just a name.
Look at the Wii. We all, who didn't make fun of the name Wii?
Would any other motion control
is such
smell
a cool
is
name.
sweet?
Wii, and then we made fun of it for a few months, and now we.
And Rick Aston says, now that they have the Ark of the Covenant, pun, the PS3s will become self-aware. Using the PS2 tech, they shall launch the world's nuclear weapons. Bravia TV shall suddenly start playing Hancock over and over again. That's a nightmarish scenario, that last sentence of it. If I ever have to see Hancock one more time.
How many times have you seen it?
It's one of those ones that gets imposed on you on airplanes.
Oh,
I guess.
Yeah,
Will
It's
Smith
like,
effect.
I was doing a lot
Will
of
Smith
traveling
is
during the
palatable to
time
everyone.
that Hancock was available on airplanes.
Get you an iPod. Jeez.
I do, but then it's just all that music. It's just like they're all the same. Anyway.
all that selection.
All that music with.
Yeah,
who likes options?
yeah. I just want
I just want to watch Hancock in peace. Damn it.
exactly. Let's go ahead and move on to story number 2, because this one, from a professional standpoint, makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, Eidos / Square Enix announced that Just Cause 2 on the PlayStation 3 is going to have YouTube integration. So when you play the game, it will be automatically recording the last 30 seconds of whatever you do in the game. And you can also set it to record up to 10 minutes if you trigger it. And then you can cut those together and it'll automatically upload them to YouTube. I don't know if it goes to
I think
your
that's
channel
delightful.
or a Just Cause channel, but either way, that is really damn cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of
yeah.
the big complaints, like we heard from Modern Warfare, that Halo was great. When you have the ability to record stuff and share it, and I hear all the time from very specific games, like I really wish that I could show people this. I think that all the time when I'm playing, and I'm not even one of those people that I would think that I would be interested in that. Like normally, I don't really care about making videos and showing people what I'm doing.
You might not do
just once in a while. I'm like, man, that would be awesome.
Especially if it's like the 30-second thing. So I don't see myself going, all right, I'm ready to start a 10-minute run. But maybe something really cool happens where I jump out of a plane and I don't know, some crazy ragdoll physics happen. If I can just jump back to 30 seconds and upload it, that's
Especially
really
because
neat.
we're dealing with so many games that have really unique instances, like Fallout. Like we would come in the morning and discuss like our Fallout
Yes.
stories and be like, "Man, this was so crazy when this thing happened," and like, I wish that sometimes we could show each other.
I'm just glad to see it in like a full release where you have that kind of spontaneous action. The only games I can think of on PS3 that have allowed you to do that have been like smaller downloadable games. Like Pixel Junk Eden allowed you to do that, and I know like Novi Boy did, but there's only so much I want to show my friends of me stretching across.
I'm not sure I want to show my
world.
friends that I'm playing Novi Boy.
Like,
Yeah, it's nothing. I mean, it's actually not necessarily anything new. I mean, we have seen it in games before. It's just maybe not directly uploading to YouTube.
Which
Yeah.
is, yeah,
Which
and
is
I
awesome.
think
and
there's two
this
things.
game too.
I want this in all games, and this is
Yeah.
because we have a website, we have a television show. I would love to show this stuff off. Anything that makes it easier for us to get this kind of content is just. It is a joy from a producer's heart to be able to have this.
Seriously.
But secondly, I think the one thing I would read underneath this is that this shows a level of confidence in Just Cause 2
Yeah.
from IDOS. I mean, they know that they have a world where many dynamic things can happen, and they know that they're going to look good enough. You would want to do this.
Oh, sure. Well, we saw
Merch
it coming
2,
out of
you wouldn't
E3.
want to do this with.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Just Cause, we saw coming out of E3, like they were playing around with the tethering, to the fuel tanks and stuff like that. It would make a lot of sense for that. I actually was kind of hoping maybe Crackdown 2 would follow suit. Because there you have another game that has
true.
a very
A lot of
sandboxy
silly
playing with
potential.
toys and
Yeah.
a lot of potential to do again like really ridiculous stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
I would love to see. I mean, and this, I'm sure that all the platforms have thought about this, and it's probably very difficult. But a lot of users were requesting in that story specifically, like, why isn't this across the board a hardware feature?
I mean, I think for
We've
us,
been saying that since
yeah.
Halo 3, essentially,
Yeah.
until once they introduced it, it was like, oh man, the company that gets this, like, because that could be just like Xbox Live, something that convinces you to get a version of a game. If I can share all my stuff with my friends,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
sort
I
of
mean,
that
you
group
just
collaboration.
do. You have those just crazy random moments. And it's like
Yeah.
describing it doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
No.
You really need to see it. Gamer Money, I think, agrees with all of us here. He writes, I wish more games use these features. I would love using this in shooters like COD, Killzone Resistance, etc. Would so use it in action games like God of War or RPGs like White Knight Chronicles. I don't know if I would use it for all of those games, especially White Knight Chronicles, because I can't imagine anything that amazingly dynamic is going to happen from one experience to the next, and could be quite tedious to watch. But I don't even know if I want to see it as much in shooters as I do. It is the sandbox game.
You would if you played online like I do all the time.
You know what? That's
You
true.
totally
yeah, when you
would.
have
There
some
would be
online
an
shooters,
audience
yeah.
for every game,
And my
I
point
think.
earlier is that like I don't do this, but I'm not going to be one of those people that sits there, tapes my entire match, sorts through, like when I play
Right.
for a significant amount of time, uploads it myself. Game does it for me, totally in.
So
Yeah.
you need to hit a button. It's like, oh, it
Done.
captured that
Sweet.
last kill.
I'm lazy.
Upload.
You know what? And this
Yeah.
goes back into what we were just saying about Natal. This ease of use. I mean, what happens is, if you make it easy to do, more people will just do it whimsically and then get into it. But if you create all these extra steps that make it challenging, that's where you don't get that same level of
Yeah,
participation.
I literally just want to grief my buddy. I want to be able to upload that button, the video of him being the last kill in the
Yeah.
game and me shooting him and and send it to him and go, "Ha, you died, you suck."
Well, and I'm also glad that Eidos doesn't seem to be making the mistake that I thought EA did with Skate, because Skate did that. With Skate 2 did, we had upload, but it goes to an EA Games channel, and so it goes to an EA specific site, and it's it's the same reason no one starts a new Facebook, because you know what, Facebook exists, so embrace what's already
Exactly.
there, brand it however you want. But I think it's very smart that it goes to YouTube and not to some
Yeah.
BS
Use the tools
Just
that people
Cause.
use,
Yeah, because that's
you
what's
know?
going to get people to use it past the first couple weeks of launch.
Exactly.
Patrick, was that a clever segue into our third story?
No, but I'm just that
well,
good.
well, then look at that. You are just innately talented in giving me a perfect way to go. What's story number 3? Could have
gel
anything to
so
do
well.
with EA.
Yeah, so Mass Effect 2, which we're trying to integrate as much as possible, given that our discussion is not till next week. But I think this is really interesting because EA set a precedent with the Saboteur in December with trying to find interesting ways to combat used games. And in the Saboteur, you could download essentially a patch that removed the nipple
Yeah.
tassels from the strippers.
Yeah.
And it was free.
Because what could be underneath
Exactly.
there?
Which I thought
What?
I thought that was pretty clever, actually.
Yeah.
And it was $5 if you had bought a used copy. So it was even if you did get a used copy, it was a pretty low investment if you really wanted to see the boobies. But in Mass Effect 2, they have something called the Cerebus Network. And the Cerebus Network is how you... Did you like how I said the boobies?
Yeah. Wow.
The Cerebus Network is how you it's an in-game store. But in addition to it being an in-game store to get downloadable content, the only way to get what BioWare is proposing, which is a slew of free content, is to have the Cerebus Network. Now, you'll be able to buy the premium DLC, which I think is going to be like on the scale of these expansions. They're proposing for
something
Dragon Age.
that is really
You can
big.
get that separate. Like that's because that's going to cost, $20, $30, $40. But so the free DLC, you need the Cerebus Network, and that costs $15 if you buy a used copy.
Now, I know that people go like, this sounds onerous. I'm not saying that used game sales are bad. At the same time, I understand from the publisher's point of view, they're losing money.
Right.
On stuff. And obviously all of this DLC, that's really is the incentive. I mean, is this really that insidious on EA's part to be? I mean, it's a high cost, but I don't think they want people to pay the $15. What they want them to do is to actually buy the game new off the shelf.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I think our first user comment points to like a really, really good point of this. It comes from Iceman MX, who says, what happens when the game is out of print or there are no more new copies being sold? Why would you penalize someone who's just late to the party, even if they want to buy it new?
Now, do we really think 5 years down the line that the Cerebus Network is still going to be, kind of jacking up a $15 price tag?
You don't know, but I mean, EA just recently shut down a bunch of servers for games that came out 2 years ago. So I mean, we're starting to enter that areas where things they don't want to maintain things forever, and so I mean, it is I think a legitimate question of what happens 3 years from now if you
I would
want to get
assume
the
like a Game of the Year edition or like what they do with Fallout 3 for the PS3 release, like everything all could, comes together into one pack.
I'm
So,
sure they'll find a way to make it make sense,
Yeah.
but at the same
Yeah.
time, in the back of my head, I think about all of the games that I had on PC, and my mom had sent a bunch of them back out to me, and I didn't have codes for any of them,
Okay,
so I couldn't
yes.
use any of them. And I mean, these are games that are, some of them maybe 15
The ones
years
with the pinwheels
old.
where you have to match up
Sure.
the passwords.
But like some of these games are 15 years old, and I had no way of playing a lot of them because I didn't have codes for them anymore. Because I took them out of the packaging, put them in the CD case so I could travel. I've moved a bunch of places. Like it was just kind of sad.
Yeah, I've gone through 3 copies of Titan Quest for that very reason. Why I have played Titan Quest that much, I don't know. I think I just kept on thinking maybe this time I'll really enjoy it. And it'll stop being so hard when I play a melee character, but no, I learned wrong. No one should follow suit. I guess my one personal opinion is that I'm having a hard time even seeing Mass Effect 2 getting returned that much. I mean, I love this game so much, and even with 57 hours into it, I'm actually looking forward to playing through it again because there was that sense that, the way I was playing the game, I was missing some interesting things that I could only get by, having a Paragon character and interacting with characters differently. That there is a good case to be made for that game not even making it onto the used shelves. I mean, $15. Yeah. I mean, it is a lot of money.
It could be one of those things that they could, I guess it is a download code, so you're just putting in something, when you open the games box, it comes with a little voucher and you just punch it in like you would anything else. There's no reason, I guess, that they couldn't a year from now just say, Cerebus Network is free.
They've done that with their sports games.
Yeah.
Where they did like live season for NBA Live and FIFA, where if you bought the game used, you had to spend like $10, $15. Actually, I think it was higher for live on a code that would get you all the live roster updates. And right towards the end of the season, they said, "Okay, season's up, it's free."
All right. If there's a precedent there, that's encouraging.
Because there's also another benefit that EA gets when you take the money out of it. They want people to sign up for EA.com. I mean, that
is true. You do have to do that when you register.
This is the part that drives me crazy because I first started down this path with Dragon Age and playing it on the PC. That was one of the most obnoxious things I've had to go through, and that especially when I see it on the 360 where you have Xbox Live, where ease of use really is, its most salient characteristic. The idea that EA is intruded with something infinitely more clumsy and all these extra steps, as I was saying earlier about, just uploading videos to YouTube, it has to be a quicker, easier process than what they're, going to be asking a lot of, not hardcore players even to do when they buy their copy of Mass Effect.
Yeah, not a fan of having to go to a website to register for something else.
No,
I really liked how Uplay was built like right into Assassin's Creed 2.
Yeah,
so if I
just
wanted
that
to sign
logo.
up, I could just.
It
Fine.
was so contrary to Assassin's 2. It was.
I know.
Fair enough, but I like that I could just do it all. I mean, if you're going to make me or give me the option of signing up for something, I at least like that it was built right into that
No,
menu,
you're right.
and
I
could
still
just do
thought
it right
like
there.
Globix was going to lick Ezio's face at any moment in that game.
Because I'm sure I'm signed up for all of those sites, and then when it comes to like, oh, what's your log? I'm like, I don't freaking remember. Like, what was the
Yeah,
last
and
game
it's
that I
yet
did this
another
for? I
password
don't
that I'm
know.
trying to recall.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
I will say though, going back to Iceman MX's comment about when the game's out of print, I think the dynamic at work here that was not in existence when, say, the first Mass Effect was out was games on demand.
Yeah.
And I don't see any reason why EA wouldn't re-release Mass Effect 2 a year and a half from now on games on demand. And if they don't make the code free, to just bake it into your download.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things I find interesting is that Mass Effect is, in every sense of the word, a single-player game. And it's interesting how with this game, they really are kind of forcing, this online component. And that, if this is going to work in their favor when it comes to matters like DLC, because, people who may not have an Xbox Live account actually signed up for that because of the extra content that they can get through the Cerberus
one of the
network.
things they're doing, and they started this at Dragon Age, and if you go into the options menu of Mass Effect 2, there is a option to send BioWare, they call it like player feedback. And so essentially, and it's defaulted to on, like naturally, but essentially, my understanding of what that does is that it transmits your decisions and how you play the game back to BioWare. So before, like pre-Mass Effect, like they kind of just had to read message boards and sort of try and figure out the metrics of how people were playing the game. Starting with Dragon Age and Mass Effect 2, they actually can literally just look at the raw data of what people did.
They know
and
you're
figure
a
out,
terrible person.
Yeah. So you can go in and turn it
They know
off.
how bad
but
I
it
played.
is there.
And this is funny because when I played the first Knights of the Old Republic, and early on in the game, there was, I believe, a woman who was assaulted by a male character. I think in the first area that you're in.
Yeah.
And you go talk to that guy, and he kind of was like, just take care of her for me. So I went back and I killed her because I think that was like one of the first games where you could really make these kind of choices. And I
be a
did that,
dick.
and then I was overcome with a sense of panic, and I actually thought I might be reported. And now the reality has come to fruition. And, Greg and Ray are up there going like, man, look at that Sessler.
Weren't you were bad in Mass Effect 2 as well, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Always.
You know what? I didn't get any of the benefits of being able to import a character, which gives you some kind of head start on the Paragon or Renegade.
Yeah.
And I almost filled that puppy up. I had like a tiny sliver up at the top. Because it's I don't get to be a punk in real life. I'm all like huggy and
I
everything.
play good until there was no incentive to be good. Like Fallout, I played until I had gotten all the achievements for being good, and then I realized that evil is a far more efficient way to go.
Yes.
And I just knocked through everything else as
like
as
it.
a
And that's
horrible
why I have
person.
multiple save states for my Fallout
Yeah.
character. I'm like, oh, that's right before the pivotal point. I'm
Yep.
going to go kill as many
That is-
innocent people as possible.
Yeah.
Maximize my time.
I want to read this comment from Renaissance Spam. That's pretty good. 15 seems a little steep, especially when used games seem to be sold at major retail stores for only about $15 less.
Yep.
Effectively meaning you're paying for a new copy anyway. I think that...
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, maybe you know why we
Totally.
have this steep price point.
Yeah.
Good noticing there, Renaissance Spam.
He's better at math than us. Right?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Math?
No.
I mean,
no.
Yeah.
I'm okay with Renaissance.
Went to
spam
liberal
taking
arts
that.
colleges.
Yeah. Journalism major. I had calculators.
Yeah,
Same.
you weren't doing too many
Yeah.
of those, Mandelbrot sets or
We
something
didn't,
like
we didn't
that.
even
I
have
don't even
math
know what
classes.
that is.
That's a fancy thing. All right. Well, there we go for news. Thank you so much, Patrick. I fully expect we'll have a very lively discussion about Apple's announcement come next week.
Yeah, next week will be
Hey.
busy.
I think it'll be nice because I think we're gonna have a few days to ruminate about what the implications are of this tablet, which does seem like it's going to be actually
Next big
embracing
thing.
video games. Wow, Apple, you haven't come full circle. You've finally reached where everyone else has been for so long. Sterling, No More Heroes 2. This is our game of the week. You did the review, a 4 out of 5. You did see a lot of improvements over the first one, but this is by no means, an act of perfection from Suda 51.
No, but considering what Suda 51 has come from, it's a vast, vast improvement.
What do you think is like one of the key improvements of No More Heroes 2?
One of the big things to me was they trimmed a lot of the fat with the game. So when you played the first No More Heroes, there was like motorcycle navigation, which kind of felt like it, because these games all have sorts of like lots of inside jokes. It's very self-aware. And I felt like the motorcycle navigating around Santa Destroy was very much poking fun at GTA San Andreas and its navigation. I got the joke the first time I had to do it. like after 10 hours, I was like, all right, guys, I get the joke. It's not funny anymore.
Can I take a cab?
Yeah, can I get a cab somewhere, please? So what they've done now is you step outside, you pick where you want to go, and the camera just zooms all the way up, bird's eye view, and you have kind of a pseudo 3D map that you go around, you pick where you want to go, and you fast travel to it. It's really efficient. It
A
makes it...
Suda 3D map.
Yeah. Oh my God! Look
That
at
was
the
a joke.
blood.
Boom.
That was a joke.
He'll be here all week, folks. Don't forget to tip your waiter. So,
He'll be here all week. Sounds more like a warning.
Sorry,
Scared.
you're stuck with me.
but it's not just the world navigation. The mini games are fantastic as well. And then the original game, they had mini games, which again felt like they were making fun of you for doing
carrying of the
menial
coconuts.
jobs.
Yeah, there was some real tedious stuff there.
Yeah. And again, I got the joke the first time. In this case, what they've done is they've taken all these general ideas behind these grind jobs and turned them into these delightful 8-bit mini games.
Grinding is okay with an 8-bit stylization, as I found out.
Yes.
I am willing to collect space trash for 45 minutes because I will earn $150,000 for 7 minutes of my time.
I will vacuum up giant scorpions happily for a little extra cash to get a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Now, see, my whole reason for doing it is that I need to feed the cat.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that.
I love an economy system that's almost purely based on feeding your
Feeding
cat.
cats. That's another thing.
My cat is really happy.
Yeah. Oh, mine.
You
mine was
buy the
thrilled.
gourmet stuff every time.
I do. I buy him
$1,000.
the $1,000 premium.
And you know what's
cat
funny?
food.
It's probably only in the video game that a cat would really appreciate the gourmet versus the normal stuff.
What I love, though, I mean, at the beginning of the game, they very much break the fourth wall to say,
Oh, yeah.
if what about all those people that didn't play the first game? They're going to be bored listening to us give all this background. And then the next thing they do is you go into his apartment and you see that his cat has let herself go and she's 24 pounds. And it's just, I guess if you hadn't played the first game, it's amusing, but it's riotous if you play the first game. Amidst all the stupid, like, otaku fandom that he's very, very focused on, to just go, oh yeah, by the way,
Now,
your
Now,
cat's
what
loaded.
about, well, not so much the controls. I think one of the things that really got to me, given how challenging No More Heroes was, regardless of how it controlled, that camera in some of those boss battles was not cooperative. I mean, have those matters been addressed in No More Heroes 2?
It's still got some.
We got some hums coming from them.
Yeah, It's got its occasional moments of funkiness. It's one of those things, I got it, and it didn't bother me as much because I get it. I adapted to the quirks of gameplay, the quirks of the camera. I can totally see how not everybody would dig it, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole game in general, anything Suda51 does, anything Grasshopper does in general is very much an acquired taste.
Well, it's like, there's much like in spite of many things that are also going on.
Yeah, well,
in this
I
side
was
of the game.
saved when I was playing it because Sterling and Matt Kyle came over to me and were like, "Why are you using the nunchuck?" Oh my god! Thank God I put in the classic controller because I was beginning to think that game was borderline unplayable with the nunchuck and Wii remote. I was so furious.
Now you played on the classic controller as well.
Loved it.
So what I did was I actually went through and beat the first game again to give myself a refresher course before I started. So I'm very used to the remote, and I thought the remote and nunchuck worked. You know,
Okay.
actually, I enjoyed it even more, but I like the fact that they were able to concede. You know, people were asking, are they going to do Motion Plus? And they said, no, but we'll do Classic Controller. I think it's a great compromise for players like Abby, and I also think it's a great preview for how the PS3 and 360 remakes are going to function.
And that's coming out at the end of February. The first No More
in
Heroes.
Japan, yeah.
Oh, in Japan.
Yeah, it's been confirmed here. But Ubisoft is not publishing the 360.
Yeah.
and PS3 one.
I think this has a stronger audience actually in the U.S. than Japan. So hopefully we'll see
Definitely.
it as early as that as
Abby,
well.
did you play on the normal difficulty, mild? I think is what it's called. Okay, so because I started on that, and after Sterling had told me that he had played on the easier difficulty and found even some parts to still be difficult that way, and so I tried it on mild, and I found with the Wiimote like it was unplayable.
Same.
But I switched to easy just because I was like, well. I actually do enjoy some of the physicality that's because the game is so wacky, and like I enjoy doing like the weird wrestling moves with the remote. But I can understand. I know that like you like a challenge too, and so playing with the class controller, I imagine must not be nearly as frustrating when everything is reliably doing what you want it to do.
Yeah, I just found it's
because that just doesn't happen on the Wii.
And I don't know. Maybe I play so few Wii games with the Wii remote that I just kind of naturally you put the controller in my hands, it just feels right.
better. Yeah.
But I was so frustrated and I was so on the verge of just quitting when I was using the Wii remote, and then the classic controller seemed to make everything better. But
like, "Hi, I'm
what
classic
what I
controller."
find frustrating about that is I wanted to play with I have a beam katana. It's the closest thing to a lightsaber in a game, and I
Right.
should feel like I want to hit things with the Wii remote.
one
And
of the
I do,
things-
but not things in the game.
About the use of the Wii remote in No More Heroes, I'm not a big fan of is that the attacks given on the position of the Wii remote
So that's-
can change.
that's what doesn't
And
quite work as well.
I've never played a game or like a Wii game where I have to be that cognizant of the angle at which I'm holding the Wiimote out there that it kind of I just kind of get lost. I'm a flailer, okay? So I definitely lean towards the classic controller because I didn't even want to have that kind of be an issue for
Yeah,
me.
my sensibility goes out the window when you put the Wii remote in my
Yeah.
hand. Like normally I'm good at pressing buttons in certain orders and doing things, and as soon as you put that, I'm like, and I also don't like reaching up for the D-pad.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy.
No, that I do not like.
Now, see, it's funny you say that because after playing with the classic control, it kind of changed the way that I went back and started playing it again with the Wii remote. Because as I was hitting high-low attacks with the button, I was very cognizant of what I was doing, which is something I didn't do as well in the first game.
Yeah.
But I found myself consciously going up, down, up, down, up, down with my wrist when I went back and played it again with the remote afterwards.
Yeah, I liked it on easy because if I happen to do those moves, it's just a flashier move. Like otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm just spamming the A button, which I was just okay with because like the combat isn't that deep to begin with. It's
No.
very very basic. So this was definitely a game where I was okay with. You know what? I'm just here to have fun.
Yeah.
And like
Oh,
this is
totally.
a game where I don't want to get frustrated playing through it because it is a game. I really enjoyed this game, but I could very see. There were several boss battles where I was like, man, if I was playing this on normal and I was having that exponential amount of more difficulty than I am now, I would have stopped the game. So it's a game that like the moment frustration would hit me, I would probably just put it down. But I'm really enjoying just train rolling through
I
it.
think it's really funny, and that helps a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
The narrative is kind of deliberately brain dead, and compared to like Bayonetta, it's like there's always the inside joke. I mean, your first boss is a spoof of Cloud from Final Fantasy VII.
Yes.
You have to fight in the room that was like the house in Resident Evil 4 against some crazy survival horror character. It knows what it's doing.
Yeah, it's very funny.
I just wish it hadn't run out of gas so much 3/4.
And I will
through.
say, if like me, the Japanese wackiness that in Bayonetta just didn't really jive with you. No More Heroes was the complete opposite for me. Like I really this was the sort of like jumping in a mech and like doing all this really weird stuff. Like that really jived with me. And like if Bayonetta you didn't quite get, you might really enjoy No More
It's
Heroes.
funny because I was going to make a Bayonetta comparison too, but mine takes a very different tack. How you guys were uncomfortable by the sexuality in Bayonetta, which I frankly loved because I thought she kind of owned it and embraced it.
I knew this was going to come up.
I'm
'cause,
sorry,
yeah.
but I do not need to look at 3 minutes of a girl's bra and panties while she's talking to me. It was not in the first game, and it feels so inappropriate in this one.
No,
I
I'm
feel like
I was uncomfortable.
It's funny because I feel like that's actually. I thought about that as I was playing it. And I was thinking about that at the angle of the character himself, and it's through the eyes of Travis Touchdown, who's a perv. I mean,
Yeah,
in a
but
way,
in the first game, they managed
Travis
to do it
Touchdown,
without.
It is. I mean, I think because I am with Abby in terms of what my reaction to Bayonetta was, and to me there was something just very silly, and I felt was very earnest on the part of the people behind Bayonetta. Whereas here, I almost wonder, like compared to the original No More Heroes, I reached a point of exhaustion. I think a little bit earlier than even you, Sterling. That it's kind of the same feeling I have when I watch a Guy Ritchie movie, which I used to feel was like having a British person slightly drunk in my house poking me in the forehead, letting me know how clever he was.
Yeah.
And there was that like, okay, we need to do, it's the jokes and the parody in No More Heroes are far more superior than say like the parody that we got out of Matt Hazard.
Oh God!
But
by a long
the
shot.
ferocity with which they keep on kind of coming at you, and that's like and that level of self-awareness starts to kind of it's like you're starting to wear me down.
Yeah, no, it's like it's really earnestly pervy, and no, that like the moment like I hadn't played the original, and like when I started playing, and I realized the way to recharge your lightsabers is essentially to masturbate with the controller. Like I knew what kind of game I was in for, and no, I think
This
that
one is much more blatant than the first one.
is it because it.
Much.
Yes.
I
Much more.
am totally with you with those like cutscenes in between levels where you were just staring forward and like it's even pervier in the sense that when the game fades to like red or black at the end of the scene,
This
that's what
highlights
will
those,
highlight
yeah.
her panties that you're looking into, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's any like it was blatant in the cutscenes of the first game because every time he would deal with like Sylvia Christel, this French flirty agent,
because she was supposed to sleep with him if he succeeded.
she kept flirting with him and kept saying, "Oh, this or that," and it was constantly whatever she was doing. He was constantly
going all the way up her crack and like the shorts here.
No, but there was that whole thing where she was getting a massage and she was like, "Hey, Travis, can you rub oil on me on the beach?" And
but
he's
that's
just like,
fine,
"Ah,"
and I get
and
that.
they
But this
totally
one,
play
she's
that
doing
out.
the same with a thong all the way up her butt and her bra hanging out. Like, I don't know. It's a little more gratuitous, and I don't appreciate it. Not all gamers are dudes.
I totally.
I don't
And
even
not
know
all
the
gamers who enjoy No More Heroes are dudes.
Well, I don't even know if it's so much a sort of dude, non-dude type situation. Is that there's that?
Dude, clearly, we have a dude, non-dude situation on our hands.
Clearly got a dude, non-dude
And I'm not
situation on our hands.
approved.
On this
No,
episode.
you
you're
know,
not
if I-
approved. And I want to go on the record here and say Abby is not approved
At all.
And I want to say yes. If in a week of which I'll probably create more, dichotomies, dude, non-dude is going to be my favorite. But there is that funny sense, like, oh God, you're kind of going there. And it's just like, I mean, I guess the other thing is that I felt the cutscenes went on too long, and then it's not even giving me something visual for me to kind of, say like, Bayonetta cutscenes seem to just have this kind of endless, like, okay, where's this going to go next? But there was an attempt to kind of, okay, let's spice this up and change the camera perspective. But it was one of those, like, I had to close the door because I wasn't stoked on my wife walking in at that moment and me having to explain
I had
what
to
was
skip
up on
at
the
least
screen.
one cutscene when she came home from work, and I'm like, boop. That's
Yeah.
okay. You don't need to. You just want to. I'm fighting dudes. I'm fighting
Yeah,
dudes.
and I think that kind of a sensation is not something we typically have when we're playing video games.
No,
That, like,
and-
no good context can be delivered to explain away what's up on screen.
I don't think it's meant to. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's very explicit and purposeful. The game is not trying to say.
No.
I mean, like the game. Like it's a attempt to parody is just kind of creepy sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know what they're trying to do.
It's trying to
but-
be punk, and I think that punk in the Japanese context and like that sense of punkness here sometimes don't, it doesn't
don't
translate
jive.
perfectly.
It's not necessary for what the game is doing, and I guess that's basically my point. Is that I'm all for sexuality or whatever you want to include in games. I just like there to be a point to it. I like to have it, either further something in the story or just kind of contextually make
or be a pun
sense,
or like
or
the
be funny
point
or,
of a joke, but it's
yeah.
it many times it's just
It's
come
just
on,
like,
dude.
I-
Next time I see Studio, I'm like, come on, man, really? Like, did you have to really?
No, it is interesting that he's only the executive director on No
Yeah,
More
I think
Heroes 2.
he's
See,
really
I don't know how
concentrating on
responsible
No
he
More
was for
Heroes
this
for
one,
360 and
Yeah.
PS3.
which are two games that I think we're going to want to discuss when they do come out, because given his visual style, I feel he has always shortchanged himself by doing it on the Wii.
I'm
That this
incredibly
guy
excited to see
really
this.
has like one of the. I mean, I
Yeah.
love looking at his stuff, and I think on a system that can really kind of push those polygons, it could be quite something.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and put No More Heroes 2 behind us. Thank you so much, Sterling. Obviously, next week we're going to be chatting about the big, meaty Mass Effect
What?
2.
Something came out? What?
Yeah. But let's go ahead to our question of the week, which is related to
Yay.
BioWare's magnum opus. I think
It's not a dude, non-dude question.
it's not
Ah,
a
if
dude,
only I had known that's where
non-dude
this
dichotomy.
I don't
conversation
know.
would
You can
go.
do dude, non-dude with Mass Effect.
But
Depends how
it
you
is
roll.
from our reader Sphincter Roar.
Sphinx
Not
terror.
Sphincter.
Combination of sphincter and terror.
Sphincter.
But those two words don't actually end in the same sound.
I like
Doesn't
Sphincter
make
Roar.
sense.
That sounds
Jam.
less
Yeah, I was going to say someone trying to top
I'm
Boner
gonna get a
Jam.
Boner Jam reference.
Yeah.
I'm
All right.
the clenched. How about
He
everyone
writes,
else?
BioWare has really been pushing the continuation of story elements spanning several games with the Mass Effect trilogy. I love the idea that my actions and the choices I made in previous games will affect what happens to certain characters or plot lines in subsequent titles. Do you see this as a tool that other developers should be adding to their repertoires, or do you see it as a gimmick that adds little to the actual game itself other than personalizing it a bit? I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't
Yeah.
want to see everyone do it, but no, this is not a gimmick in Mass Effect 2. And with everything Casey has been saying from BioWare about how Mass Effect 3 is going to play out, this is an even more significant role
Yeah.
in the conclusion to their trilogy. Like I've said before, I'm very sad that I did not get to import my character, but I was able to replicate most everything that my character did when I played it.
Creepy character.
Yeah, I have the most unattractive character anyone is playing right now in Mass Effect 2.
I see. I was kind of okay that my character, like, somehow I must have deleted my save, like, because I had a 20 gig for a long time, and I'm actually okay because I remember I thought it was funny that I developed a pedophile-looking character when I played Mass Effect 1, but then realized, I don't know if I want to play that guy for 3 games. So when I got to redesign a new character, it's like, get that mustache off you.
Wow, what is wrong with all of you and your character customization?
Well,
Jeez, I have a normal-looking character that...
I'm so excited to play these games when I get them that I don't want to get too lost. It's like, once I'm done with that character customization, I get to start playing that game. So I think I'd love a game where, like, give me a normal character so I can just kind of get some of the initial joy of playing it out of the way and then let me customize him.
I mean, for me, it was one of those things that when I played Mass Effect, I didn't totally buy what they were saying at that time. Like, sure, yeah, I'll be able to bring it over. That's something that a lot of people have talked about. And then, it seems like at this point it's become very real.
Now, was that promised with KOTOR 2? Because KOTOR 2 did it asked you questions about your experience in the original Knights of the Old Republic.
It wasn't a save game transfer, but they were like, if you can customize what happens based on these questions that you ask.
Well, I wonder if we wouldn't see it implemented in other ways too, like from, seeing your stats from other games, like stuff that's not even RPG, where you don't necessarily have a character, but all the games track, or a lot of games now track all of your in-game stats, and it would be interesting to see those carry over. I mean, what if your Gears saves, transferred to Gears of War 2, or like.
Now, we've seen small things like that with Fable 2. You've got some
your
extra
kill count
goodies.
for multiplayer, stuff like that.
Fable
I don't know
1.
if I'd want it to, but I mean, I'd like to see them.
You could pull up someone's profile and said, well, how did they do it? Like, Modern Warfare 2 comes out, you pull up a player you just played against, you can see how they did in Modern Warfare 1 as of whatever stats were brought over.
I don't know. I don't know if necessarily I would want all of that, but I would kind of like to see more companies that don't just do RPG stuff to play with that idea of continuity and having something that carries through.
Bethesda is the only other company out there that I think is making the type of game where I could see this implemented, though I don't necessarily think that would help. I mean, they like to have far more self-contained stories. I mean, I think BioWare is doing this because only BioWare is doing this.
It just doesn't really fit, a lot of other games.
Well, and they're one of the only companies that proposed a trilogy and is actually going through with it.
Yeah.
So,
and
we
saw
what? A lot of those a couple years ago.
One thing I will say about Mass Effect 2 is it's really nice when they plan the trilogy from the get-go. I mean, when we look at movies like The Matrix and other things that they only become a trilogy after the success of the initial installment, and then suddenly they have to kind of explain away a world that they never really were thinking that much about when they first made it. You really feel like they always plan to go where they're going with Mass Effect 2, and that gives me all the confidence in the world about Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, and I don't even know if, like, extrapolating from this question is, kind of what Abby was alluding to, is sort of just like a persistence of your experience. Like Xbox Live, like your gamer tag, your achievements, like everything, that's sort of the same thing, just in a different sense. It's just the idea of being able to track what you've done. It's why you like looking through your pictures on Facebook. It's just like having an aggregate of what you do as a person, sort of like a live stream of yourself as a gamer is cool, and it's cool to share that with people.
Well, I think it ties back to what you were saying about the metrics earlier and how BioWare can track now, and with Dragon Age, how they can track how you play. I don't know that it would be something where your save file and your unique character would roll over, but I absolutely see metrics rolling over with continuous sequels. I could totally see Bungie doing something with Reach where based on your Halo 3 multiplayer stats, they can say, based on this, we're going to give you something unique. Or Rockstar Social Club taking a bunch of your stats from GTA and saying, okay, you did all this stuff, we're going to give you this in another game. But yeah,
finding a way to reward that is not a pre-order item.
I mean, loyalty.
Seriously.
I mean, this is an industry that is built on the backs of fanboys, and so doing things that will really reward loyalty, I think, is a very wise idea.
Can't really go wrong with
that.
that.
But I think the idea of actually like creating your data of what you did in a previous game and rolling it over, it's really about who's executing, and really the question of how much do you hate game delays, because it's not an easy thing to implement.
Well, it also has to be
any
planned from the
stretch.
start. The problem, what BioWare did with Mass Effect was they took a risk that we're going to tell a story that if this game bombs, you're not going to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
And that's the risk you take with, something like The Matrix, where it's like, that could have ended and you would have had a happy, story. You don't know what happens after that, but that's okay. That's the risk you take when you do something like look at Too Human, like proposed. Are we getting Too Human too? Maybe not. But that story just ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely dicey. I'm really liking the idea of just, even on more minimal scales, that there is some sort of, sense of growth from one game to the next. And, with our typical thing that we talk about here, with the idea of digital distribution down the line, I think that does start to make it easier because, A, you don't have game returns, so you have the saves there. The games are, already on your hard drive. That we may be moving into an era when this is going to be easier to implement in games. So I don't know if Mass Effect 2 is God, that's a terrible thought. The Mass Effect 2 is going to force people to make games that do this and really awkwardly implement some sort of, game
and it might not, because as Patrick pointed out, this is a trilogy, and this was something that was very planned and done from the beginning, and it really would take a certain amount of planning.
It takes a company like BioWare.
I don't think it's something that you could really do lightly. So I don't know. But,
we will only find out more about what you guys think about Mass Effect 2, importing your character, many other things like mining that are available in the game.
Scanning.
That will be next week on Feedback. Remember, Feedback is new to Wednesdays. It doesn't go up on Thursdays anymore. It goes up on Wednesdays, 24 hours earlier. So be aware of that. It's a good thing. And make sure that you join us next week. Thanks for being here. We will have so much to talk about next week.